So talking about the crops that you can sow very early spring, sometimes even late winter depending on how it's going on. The first one that I want to bring to you guys' attention is the turnip, the lowly turnip. Now, a lot of people don't like turnips, but they're really valuable for those who are trying to grow a little of their own home produce. The turnip root by itself isn't all that nutritious. It's a little bit starchy but fairly bland, doesn't have a whole lot to it, but when you include the turnip root and the turnip top, the turnip greens, it actually has significantly more protein and a very high level of good quality vitamins if you include those tops or the greens. And they're really great to grow in your garden. Even just as something like a cover crop or as a green manure, I'll often grow turnips, sow them very heavy, and just till them in the ground for a organic matter boost, which is what I did here. I grew tomatoes here last year in this row. It's about a 40 foot row here, 3 feet wide. All my rows are 3 feet wide. And I grew turnips just up here on the side, up on the little hill here. Well, I took those turnip seeds and I scattered them all throughout this area where I had tomatoes because I wanted some extra green to grow and just kind of till it in. I did that mid to late fall last year, and I want to show you something here. Right here. Look at this. There's a turnip. I planted these around October last year in Michigan. Now, end of October we're getting snow, so I planted these fairly late, and here's a not all that bad turnip. It's got some cracks in it, but it's not all that bad. It's just a purple top turnip. There's a few of them about this size and several smaller, but the point I'm trying to make to you is that this is one of the crops winter doesn't kill. It's just because winter can't kill it in any northern environment at all. I mean, here in Michigan, and we're in the far north end of zone 5. If I go 30 minutes north, I'm now in zone 4. A lot of crops die when they hit that 40-degree mark. Almost everything dies once they hit a light frost. The turnips, this turnip has been frozen solid for 3 months and it's still alive. It's not soft or squishy. It's got a crack or two in it probably from swelling and all that spring thawing ice and snow that we had the past couple weeks. But it's whole, it's intact. Even just to grow these as a chicken or pig feed, these things are highly valuable. They're great for human consumption, they're great for livestock, and they're great to grow even just to till into the ground, chop them up and let them rot in the dirt as a organic matter booster to help you conserve your water and your nutrients in the soil, help your soil to hold water more too. So turnips, these things are incredible. This whole row here, I'm going to eventually till it all up, and I'm probably going to go ahead and put my winter squash in here. It depends on if I have enough rabbit manure left by the time I get all the way down to the end, whether I put winter squash here or not. I'll either do winter squash or beans, depending on how much rabbit poop I have left over. Alright, moving on. Another crop that winter just can't kill. A great thing to sow anytime you can work the soil, whenever the ground isn't frozen solid. Even if it's partially froze, if you can still dig a hole, you can plant them, and that's your allium, your onions, chives, and garlic. Leeks, not so much, they're more of a heat plant, but onions, chives, and garlic. In fact, I'm planting onions and chives today. These are, here's a good one, I don't want to dig up too much here. It's like, this one here needs to get digged up anyway. Alright, these are Egyptian walking onions. Yep. And this one needs to get split up. Now these were left over from last year. They look great, they look healthy. They're a nice, tasty onion, but most onions, you can leave them in the ground all winter. If you're planting with seeds, you can plant them anytime you can poke your finger in the dirt. Doesn't matter if it's going to freeze again. If you're planting green onions or little shallot-sized half-grown onions, like these are right now, you can plant those anytime you can put your finger in the dirt, whether or not it's going to freeze again. And I've got a bunch of these to plant today yet. I've got a nice little pile. There we go. One more. I gotta find a spot for it. I'll stick you right here for now, but I'm gonna have to put you further away later. When I have my next gardening class here, I'm gonna give people some free onions as they go because I need to thin these out a little bit. So the onions, I'm planting these today. These were leftovers from last year that I saved in the pantry. I soaked them in water to get the roots a little active. And these are all ready to plant. So I'm planting all these onions today, even though we're gonna have at least another week of solid freeze in the 30s and 20 degrees out here. They don't care. These onions, they don't care. So onions, garlic, and chives are a crop that you can plant anytime you can put your fingers in the soil. Anytime you can work the soil with a spade, whether or not it's going to freeze again. And they really tend to like the colder weather. It gives them a nice early start. When you plant them this early, they grow so much bigger. Here's another one of the great crops that you can plant anytime, early spring, anytime where you can work the soil, even just for a short period, and that's chard. Chard or Swiss chard. It's a relative of the beet family. By the way, you can plant beets quite early too. And this is, oops, I broke one. This is a salad green plant that winter can't kill. All the snow just melted here less than a week ago. The snow was still here. And these things are a little brown, but they're greening up already, and they will be growing great in about another month. These things are going to be starting to lift up and grow up pretty strong. And I'm excited to get my chard growing. I love that stuff. The only thing I had to do with this chard to help it come along in the spring is I hoe up any weeds that are around it, clear up any of the old dead leaves that are on them, and I let spring do its job of warming them up and letting those leaves take in sunlight and photosynthesize. It's one of my herbs, and that's one that you probably haven't thought much about as a very winter hardy plant, and that is chamomile. Now, all of this is bright green here. You can see all this bright green, and there's some over here. There's a little down there too. This is all chamomile. None of this was growing last fall. This was all just bare ground that I tilled up. And the chamomile, which was planted here, it always self-seeds fairly heavily. And this all came up and sprouted sometime under the snow cover. So chamomile, this is the German chamomile. It's an insanely winter hardy plant. This is, specific variety was, I believe, Ladizan or Zlatilan German chamomile. It's an heirloom variety. But this stuff is already got a super start on everything else in the garden. And this is going to be in a month, whereas I'm still going to be not even having my tomatoes planted in a month. This stuff's going to be 6 inches high already. And you just can't kill it with winter. This is something that you can plant anytime. You can plant this in the fall and it won't sprout until sometime late winter. This stuff will all honestly germinated really under the snow sometime. It's insane. I don't know how it does it, but I love it. So German chamomile, that's your taller growing varieties, not the low ground cover stuff. But this will end up getting 2 or 3 feet tall. A good German chamomile is a really great herb to grow if you're in a cold and northern environment. Now here we have my sage. If you can see through the apple branch here, don't really want to snap that off. We have my sage. This is common sage, also known as a white sage. And the sage plants, the sage bushes, sage brushes, they're all very, very winter hardy, incredibly frost tolerant, freeze tolerant. These things are already greening up, and I love sage. It's one of my all-time favorite herbs. It's so tasty. My homemade, home-ground pork sausage does not taste right without my homegrown sage in it. Well, sage is a great savory plant to use in a lot of your cooking. Super common in any of the poultry dishes. Also pretty common in a lot of fish dishes too. And it's very drought resistant and winter resistant. So since it's one that, well, you almost can't kill off, you might think about growing it. It's got some great health benefits to it. It can be used medicinally. It tastes great in your soups and in your stews, roasted meats. Sage is an incredible plant for the homesteader or for someone who wants to grow something low maintenance that just doesn't go away, but also doesn't take over your garden. Well, I've got a lot more crops out here I could show you, but I'm running out of time. So thanks for watching Northern Homesteading. Let me know in the comments what your favorite winter hardy plants are, or things that you can plant early spring. And well, I'm running out of, well, I've got a lot more crops out here I could show you that are good cold weather crops, but I'm running out of time here. So why don't you go ahead and let me know in the comments what your favorite winter or early spring type of crops are, your favorite cold hardy crops. I'd like to see what you guys enjoy too. Thanks for watching Northern Homesteading. Like the video and look around for more good information. Bye now.